My name is Jordan Hayes. I'm 36 years old, and I design cybersecurity systems for some of the top tech firms in Seattle. I've spent the last 12 years building digital fortresses, keeping out hackers, protecting secrets, making sure no one ever gets locked out of what's rightfully theirs. But 2 weeks ago, I woke up locked out of my own life. My email? Logged out. My social media? Gone. Even my smart home, lights, thermostat, door locks, all reset to factory settings. All done from an IP address less than 20 feet away from my bed. By the woman I loved. The woman who slept beside me just the night before. Her name was Lena. And she didn't leave a note. She left a firewall. I tried calling her, straight to voicemail. I texted, DMED, even sent her a message through a shared grocery app we used. Nothing. I wasn't just ghosted. I was digitally erased. But there was one problem with her plan. She forgot who I am. She used the very systems I built, the ones I personally programmed, to block me. And what she didn't know was that I'd already seen what was coming. Because when someone starts locking you out before the goodbye, it means the betrayal started long before the silence. She thought she was clever. She thought by blocking me, she could walk away clean. But she didn't just try to erase me. She stole something I can prove. And in my world, digital fingerprints don't disappear. She blocked me everywhere. But she couldn't block what was already in motion. Because I wasn't chasing her. I was setting a trap. We met at a startup conference in Portland. She was giving a talk on UX design for mobile health apps, and I was there as a guest speaker on data privacy. I remember watching her from across the room, confident, sharp, witty. She had this way of commanding the room without trying. After my talk, she came up to me, complimented my slides, and said my code examples were too clean to be real. We laughed. I offered her coffee. That was the beginning. Lena was brilliant. She had started her own design agency by 28, and her portfolio was filled with sleek, user-friendly apps. We bonded over long nights debugging code and ordering way too much takeout. She'd come over after client meetings, kick off her heels, and sit cross-legged beside me as I coded. We'd talk about building something together one day, maybe an app that could actually help people instead of just farming data. For a while, it felt perfect. She moved in after 8 months. She met my mom, even helped her set up her first smartphone. Lena had this way of making herself belong. Everyone loved her. And I did too. I'd never been the emotional type, but with Lena, I opened up. I told her about my dad, how he left when I was 10, how I got into coding because it gave me control in a world that felt unstable. She listened. She didn't judge. She said she admired how I built systems to protect people. I remember her exact words. "You're the safest person I know." But slowly, quietly, things started to shift. She stopped leaving her laptop open like she used to. Her work calls got longer. She started turning her screen away when I walked in the room. Harmless things at first. Things I told myself were nothing. She's just stressed. I'd think. Her agency is growing. She's under pressure. And yet, the warmth in her voice started to dim. The goodnight kisses became quick. Conversations felt like task lists. Something invisible had moved in between us, but I didn't want to name it. Because the truth is, I wanted this to work. And that hope, that deep, naive hope, kept me blind far longer than I cared to admit. It wasn't one big moment. It was a series of little things, subtle changes that, alone, meant nothing, but together, they told a story I didn't want to believe. She started working late. Not just once or twice a week, every night. And always at the same cafe 3 blocks from our apartment. She said the ambience helped her focus, that the agency's new client was in a different time zone. I believed her, or maybe I wanted to. Then came the passwords. She changed the lock screen on her phone, something we never did before. She logged out of our shared Netflix and created her own profile. Even the Spotify playlists we made together? Gone. I told myself she needed space. That maybe I was being paranoid. But something inside me, that instinct honed from years of tracing breaches, started whispering, "You're being lied to." I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I started observing. When she'd leave, I'd check the home router. 2 devices always pinged, her phone, and one unknown MAC address that kept connecting near midnight. She still smiled. Still kissed my cheek in the mornings. Still said, "Love you," before heading out. But her eyes didn't match her words. They held distance, calculation. One night, I watched her step out for a late client call. I waited 15 minutes, then checked the back-end logs of our security system. She hadn't gone to the cafe. She hadn't gone anywhere near it. Her car was parked across the street from a downtown hotel, the same place we once stayed at during our anniversary weekend. I didn't ask questions. I didn't send angry texts. I just sat there, staring at her location, feeling the weight of betrayal settle in like cold water in my lungs. And still, even then, I didn't tell her I knew. I just quietly started backing up everything. Phone logs, server access, chat history, app credentials. Because if Lena was playing a long game, I needed to make sure I didn't blink first. It happened on a Tuesday. She was out. Said she was meeting with a developer from Austin about a cross-platform feature she wanted to implement. It was supposed to be a short meeting, 2 hours tops. But midnight came, and she still hadn't returned. Her phone was off. No messages. No updates. I wasn't worried. I was done being worried. I was watching. Earlier that day, I quietly synced a recovery app to her old iPad, the one she left in our guest room. I used it as a backdoor into her account, just in case. She never wiped it clean. At exactly 12:07 a.m., a notification came through. It was a screenshot, automatically uploaded to her cloud. A blurry mirror selfie in a hotel bathroom. Her, in a robe, and in the background, just barely visible, a man's watch on the counter. Not mine. My stomach dropped, but not out of heartbreak. That had already withered away. This wasn't a surprise. It was a confirmation. Then came the second image. It was a shared workspace login, her name listed as Creative Director on a brand new app. The name of the company? Pixelforge Ventures. I blinked twice. That was my project name. A concept I'd been building for the last 4 years. Something I had told only one person about, over coffee, at 2 a.m. as she curled against my chest and said, "I believe in this." She didn't just leave me. She took my vision and handed it to someone else. I stared at the screen, quiet, still, cold. No yelling. No punching walls. No calls. I just closed the iPad, walked to the kitchen, and poured myself a glass of water. Because I knew something she didn't. She had no idea I'd built my prototype on a private cloud. No idea I'd encrypted the core code with biometric access. No idea the version she had wasn't the real one. And that the real one, the one she tried to steal, was still sitting in a secure drive she thought she'd erased. I didn't cry that night. I started planning. The next morning, I made her breakfast. Pancakes. Black coffee. Just like she liked it. She walked in wearing that same confident smirk, like nothing happened. Like she hadn't just tried to erase me the night before. She said the meeting went late. No big deal. I smiled. Said I understood. Even offered her a ride to work. She declined, of course. Said she had a ride waiting outside. I waved from the porch as she got into a matte black Tesla. I already knew whose it was. The moment she turned the corner, I got to work. First, I cloned the Pixel Forge app she'd registered under her name. She thought she was smart, but all she had was a front-end shell. A mock-up. The real architecture was never there. I never uploaded the source code to public servers. I had kept it air-gapped for a reason. I backed up every piece of evidence, timestamps, access logs, metadata from her iPad, the screenshots, and the IP logs from our home router. All of it stored on a secure drive, triple encrypted, with a digital trail that led straight back to her. Then I called my lawyer. Michael Rubin, aggressive, precise, and expensive. He specialized in intellectual property theft. The moment I showed him the files, he asked one question. You want to go public or tactical? I told him, tactical. For now. Next, I reached out to the angel investors she had quietly started pitching to. How did I know? Simple. She left her old pitch deck on our shared Dropbox, and didn't realize I could still view change history. She had rebranded my work and passed it off as hers, right down to the slogan I once scribbled on a napkin at Denny's. Investor by investor, I said private, anonymous notices. Please be aware, the technology presented to you may be the subject of pending legal action regarding ownership and original authorship. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to freeze the funding. Within 72 hours, I'd made contact with the venture firm hosting her upcoming pitch demo. I didn't threaten. I simply provided verified documentation showing the code structure she was claiming as hers matched a closed, secured system under my legal IP. They postponed the event indefinitely. Meanwhile, Lena kept pretending everything was fine. She still came home at night, still smiled over dinner, still acted like I was the fool who never noticed. But every day, she was losing pieces, investors, meetings, momentum. And she didn't know why. She thought she'd won because she blocked me. But she didn't realize. You can block a number. You can block a profile. But you can't block the consequences. It all came crashing down at the Pixel Forge demo night. It was held at this sleek downtown co-working space, minimalist, hip, filled with startup energy and polished smiles. I didn't go as myself. I didn't need to. My attorney went in my place, briefcase in hand, calm as ice. Lena stood on stage like a queen, pitch deck glowing behind her, fake confidence radiating from her every word. She spoke about revolutionary back-end protection, custom encrypted protocols, and a proprietary code base built from scratch. Word for word, she was reciting my work. Midway through the presentation, Michael raised his hand. Politely, calmly, and said, Before you continue, I believe the court needs to review a few documents first. There was confusion. Awkward silence. Then he handed the host a manila folder filled with time-stamped code repositories, IP documentation, legal ownership records, and a written statement signed by me. But it wasn't just the papers that mattered. It was the audio. A voice note, taken from the synced iPad she forgot to disable. Her voice, clear as day. Jordan doesn't even know I copied his prototype. I'm changing just enough to call it mine. He'll never catch it in time." The room fell silent. No one looked at her. No one clapped. The host quietly stepped forward and said, "We'll need to pause the event pending legal clarification." She tried to laugh it off. Said it was taken out of context. Said I was bitter, jealous, controlling. But the facts didn't care about feelings. The facts were written in code, my code, and signed with every digital fingerprint that led straight back to me. By the end of the week, her startup was blacklisted from 3 major incubators. Her lead investor filed a fraud complaint. She received a cease and desist from the venture firm she tried to impress. And my attorney? He filed a federal suit for theft of intellectual property, breach of trust, and malicious misrepresentation. I never had to raise my voice. Never had to threaten. Never had to post anything online. All I did was let the truth speak. And watch her world fall apart, one verified line of code at a time. It's been 8 months. I moved to a quieter part of Washington, a small town near the Cascades where the internet isn't fast, and that's exactly how I like it. No buzz. No launches. Just peace. I still write code, but not for startups, not for million-dollar contracts. I teach now. Community college. Cybersecurity 101. Room full of wide-eyed students who've never been burned by betrayal. Not yet. I don't tell them my story. I just teach them how to protect themselves from data breaches, from system failures, and sometimes from the people closest to them. Lena never apologized. Not once. Last I heard, she was working freelance under a new name. That's fine. I'm not angry anymore. She didn't just steal from me. She taught me something I never knew I needed to learn. That no matter how carefully you build your systems, no matter how encrypted, how private, how airtight, you can still be blindsided if you're not honest with yourself. I ignored the signs. I buried the instincts. And in doing so, I led her closer than I should have, not because she was clever, but because I wanted the dream more than I wanted the truth. I've let go of her, of the code, of the idea that I needed revenge to move on. Because the truth is, she took everything she could reach. But she couldn't touch the part of me that mattered. She couldn't block my peace. She couldn't block my growth. She couldn't block what came next, because what came next was me. And this time, I built something that wasn't for her, wasn't for approval, wasn't for love. It was for me. And that's something no one can ever steal again. If this story hit home, don't forget to subscribe. Some lessons are learned the hard way, but maybe, just maybe, mine can save you a little time.